Another day and another day, West Virginia Mountaineer fans cannot sing Country Roads. The West Virginia Mountaineers fall to Texas Tech here on the Saturday afternoon, 78-65, a game that was close at halftime, then was a game that the Red Raiders pulled away, and West Virginia now in the midst of a three-game losing streak. So we're going to talk about whether or not there's any panic around this team that at one point had some high hopes and at one point had a big win over UConn and thought they should argue for a ranking. They are far from that at this point now, a month later. This is your WVU postgame show here on Pittsburgh Sports Live and, of course, WV Sports Now. Our game recap right there is on WV Sports Now. And I'm your host, Mike Asti. I am joined by our Ethan Bock, who covers the basketball program here for us at WVSN. And Ethan, as I said, West Virginia ends up with a convincing loss in this one. This is a game that at one point West Virginia only trailed by 2 at halftime, and then you see a differential of 42-31 in that second half. Sherman ends up being the leading scorer with 20 plus. Nobody else gets in double digits in terms of the starting five. You do have Curry there with 11 off the bench, not as much offensive production as normally has been seen in the victories this year. And a Red Raider team that I guess it's similar in terms of record, but West Virginia coming in as the underdog was able to see 3 different starters with double digits into points, including Shannon Jr. at 23, ending up as the leading scorer of this game. What happened in the second half versus the first half to allow this game to get away from West Virginia? They also got killed on the glass, which has been a problem in many games this season. They're actually able to convert those free throws, which has also caught up with them in some losses. But Red Raider offense ended up being too much in that second half.
Yeah, I think the team got very frustrated, especially towards the end. I know they showed Jalen Bridges on camera at one point slamming his hand on the chair and ripping his jersey. I think as a team, they're just frustrated trying to avoid fouling and trying to create turnovers, and they just couldn't do it. And then also on offense, they couldn't make a shot. And when they weren't making shots, they were turning over the ball. So I think just the ball frustration overall in this game led to that second half collapse against Tech.
Yeah, and Taz Sherman, despite the 21, he certainly had better days. 6 turnovers for him. If you're going to be the best player on a team and the leading force to a team that you hope to be a contender, you can't be turning it over that much here. Ethan Bock joining me here, Mike Asti, on our WVU postgame show. The Mountaineers lose 3 straight. They lose this one at Texas Tech here on a chilly Saturday afternoon. This West Virginia team now stuck at 13 wins on the year there and still fighting to get into contention in the Big 12, let alone for postseason play. What's your concern factor overall for the rest of this season? There are still plenty of games left to go, but we did talk about how the rebounding issues could eventually catch up to them, and that could be a problem once you get into conference play on earlier shows. That certainly appears to be the case. They've now lost 3 in a row. Some of these games are against teams they feel like they should beat. Some of these games are against teams maybe you could understand why they would lose, but at the end of the day, you're in a tough conference. They're now losing 3 in a row. They have the one big win, but it wasn't exactly murderer's row early in the year when they were stacking most of those W's. What do you make of this team's current position? And how much do they really need a freaking win, no matter who they're playing? You mentioned the frustration. It feels like they just got to win some games here coming up, or this could really unravel and get out of hand.
Yeah. 3 straight losses. I mean, all 3 of the losses, though, are to really good teams, all top 20. Kansas and Baylor are Final Four contenders for sure.
Yeah. Baylor had been struggling before the game, though. Didn't Baylor lose 2 in a row prior to that one?
Yeah. They lost 2 in a row.
Right.
Yeah.
But you're right. They're defending national champs, so they're definitely in there.
Yeah, they'll be all right. Kansas will be back to what Kansas has always been. I think I don't know with this team. Like, the offense is still the same from the beginning of the year. The rebounding did get better today. They got out rebounded, but it's been better lately. The free throws for a while were pretty bad, but they got that under control really quick.
Yeah, it's great just, in this game. I don't think you can ask for much more outside of perfection in terms of the free throw shooting in this game.
18 of 22. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
There's no one else to go to on offense but Taz Sherman. There's no like Sean McNeil will occasionally have a inconsistent game. Showed that today with 7 points, 2 of 7 shooting.
Right.
Malik Curry stepped up the last week though, which helped, but today he shot the
Yes.
ball 2 of 7, so not the greatest shooting performance. They can't find anybody else that can help Taz consistently.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier in the year that you thought, I believe, Bridges could maybe be that guy to step up if McNeil could not do it. And McNeil's absolutely been inconsistent this year. But Bridges does not appear to be a guy who can step up into that role either. And maybe it's just as simple as many predicted that a team that is built around one man having to carry 80% of the offensive load every night just has a ceiling as far as they certainly can go, especially against teams that can shoot, that can get hot, and that can out-rebound you and are bigger, because West Virginia was supposed to have some rebounders on this team, but obviously has lost them for different things the last couple of years. And this is just not a big enough team if you only have one actual dominant scorer.
Yeah, I expect the Jalen Bridges to be the third option for this team, but he's not aggressive enough. And I think there's like a little bit of conservative play with him, as in he doesn't want to take a wrong shot and then get put in the doghouse. So I think that's a lot of the reason why he's expressed it before of not wanting to shoot the ball all the time. But I think if he could get more aggressive with the ball, he could really be that third option for them. It's what Malik Curry's done the last week. He shot more. Right. Shooting more will get you more points.
Absolutely. And it'll get you free throws if you're not hitting those shots. Because as you mentioned, Curry only 2 for 7, but ends up with 11 points, because when you shoot, you're either going to get to the line. 3 things are going to happen. You're either going to make it, miss it, or likely get to the line. So 2 of those things are good, actually, and give you a chance to get points on the board here. Ethan Bock joining me. West Virginia does lose. They lose 3 in a row, 78-65. This one to Texas Tech, continuing conference play. And it's been rough for the Mountaineers, but Ethan did mention, of course, they are playing good teams. So maybe the whole argument of whether or not they should be ranked, maybe that's a little fool's gold. Maybe they did pick up some fool's gold W's earlier in the year, even though the Connecticut one was legit. Because at this point, they're facing tough teams and they're just not winning enough. I do have to ask you this, though, because we had to delay this post-game show because Bob Huggins, he knows the competition out there, but he's never going to be satisfied. He was talking to his team for what felt like 40 actual real minutes, not just exaggeratory minutes. Any idea what he said? Did you guys get to talk to him in terms of asking any questions on his thoughts of this game? I haven't actually got to watch the post-game presser yet that we have in West Virginia sports now. I imagine he's not too thrilled, because you can understand losing, but when you're right, and this is a consistent theme now, you're right in there at halftime, and then all of a sudden you're losing by double digits. That does a little bit point to effort, which then is going to point to a coach, but he's a Hall of Fame coach with 900 plus wins. So that then tells me maybe the players aren't putting in the effort. What did he say to these guys in this post-game tongue lashing that I imagine is occurring there? And what did he say to you guys?
We didn't get anything specific on what he told the players after the game, unfortunately. I'm sure that would have been fun to listen to.
That I'm sure. Yeah. I'd love to be a fly on the wall for that one. I imagine they're going to be watching some NFL playoffs while on a treadmill the rest of this weekend.
Yeah. As of what he told the media, and I think he said that, he said this on the radio too.
Right.
Pretty much if guys don't want to be there, leave the team.
Okay. So it was one of those. So we've been around him long enough. He's really mad then. That when you give like the short answer to the media, that he probably gave a very long answer to the players. Yeah. And if he's already talking about, if you don't want to do this, you might as well get off the team. That's a very frustrated Bob Huggins.
Yeah. He expressed that some plays weren't run correctly. And yeah.
So then, I mean, Taz Sherman was the kind of understudy at McBride in the past. Now he stepped up into that role. Any idea what could have happened to this team? They faced quality opponents before, and even if they weren't winning, they were much more competitive. This does feel like you always get a West Virginia team under Bob Huggins to be competitive in these games and to really pick it up and play hard all the way through. I could see if you are not running plays properly in even December or certainly November or October, but we are now almost into February. If they're not running plays properly into February, I guess I don't get that, because you should have chemistry together. You now have played almost 20 games together, and that's just this season. That's not even talking about last year. Sherman's certainly not a true freshman. What's happened? Is it just a lull? Because, I mean, teams go through these lulls, but it sounds like Huggins is almost saying there's more than just a losing streak. They're not even impressing him in practice. They're going out there in games and not even running plays properly. That's a bit of execution, and that does point to the players, and it can be understandable frustration from fans that what the hell's going on here. You do have some veterans there.
Yeah, I know he's expressed all season that he's a little bit disappointed with some of the work ethic on this team, as like with the free throw problem last month in December. They were literally one of the worst free throw shooting teams in the country. They were like 353rd, I think at one point.
Sure.
And then the last 5 games or so, they've really stepped it up, and they barely miss free throws anymore. So they fixed it quick. But he's expressed a lot of disappointment with some of the work ethic on some of the players on the team. So,
okay, it's not looking good for those guys. If that is really the case, there, I would not recommend not putting in the work if you're going to play for Bob Huggins. And it does take a certain player to play well and really even handle playing at all for a coach like Bob Huggins. He tends to get more out of his guys. He's not going to get the 5-star recruit at the places he's been throughout his career. And his great players haven't been that, maybe except for Kenyon Martin 20 plus years ago. So with that said, maybe it is kind of true that if you're not willing to put up with this, you got to get out of there, and obviously the transfer portal exists, and maybe some players are going to be leaving after this season. Who knows? But that vibe doesn't fit with Bob Huggins. That just doesn't work with Bob Huggins at all here. Ethan Bock joining me, our WVU postgame show here on Pittsburgh Sports Live and WV Sports Now. Well, Oklahoma is next. Arkansas then back against Baylor, top 5 in the country still, despite those couple losses. Texas Tech again, they will see. Iowa State again, they will see. That's 3 more games against currently ranked top 20 teams. In fact, 3 more games against 2 of the 3 being top 15 ranked teams, and then Texas Tech being 18, but that may change. Who knows? Oklahoma coming up, and then Arkansas. Again, those are now winnable games. Those are not against ranked opponents, but Arkansas does give you the exact same record as West Virginia, so nothing's given. What does West Virginia need to do against Oklahoma and Arkansas in particular in those games immediately coming up, and then even in that schedule afterward, because that's going to be much tougher, almost mirroring this current schedule? And hey, if you only win 1 out of these next 5 or 6, I mean, this season could go from, it looks like, NCAA tournament to not any postseason real fast if they don't get this turned around.
Yeah, I think from the get-go, 8 games, 8 conference wins will get you into the NCAA tournament in this league. Like right now, there's 8 teams projected in to make the NCAA tournament.
Right.
8 out of 10. That's crazy.
It's a tough conference. That is crazy, though.
So I think 8 wins can get you into the NCAA tournament. Oklahoma at home absolutely has to be a win. They can't have any quote unquote bad losses. There's no bad losses in the Big 12, but when you're not playing any top 20 team in the country, any game you play at home should be a win. So Oklahoma should definitely be a win. Right. On the road against Arkansas, it's going to be another game they need to win, because they can build up their non-conference resume even more. But that's another tough game for them, because they are a totally different team when they play on the road.
And Arkansas has lost to Oklahoma, by the way. So Oklahoma's no gimme. And that's 12-6 teams, only 1 less win than West Virginia has. Oklahoma's lost to that team. Yeah, I mean, Arkansas has a win over LSU. That's not by any means a guarantee victory.
No, the rest of the games are quad 1, quad 2 games. Like there's no easy games the rest of the way. So they're going to have to win good games here if they want to make the tournament.
Would you say that the continuation of hitting these free throws is the most important? Maybe improving what they do on the boards being the most important, or just simply taking more shots? Because if you take more shots, positive can happen. Negative can happen, but at least the fan base probably can live with the loss more if you're just having a cold shooting night rather than being scared to get to the line. It does seem like they did improve the free throw shooting in this game, but it's certainly been a problem recently. And then maybe the rebounding is something they just can't fix. They're just bound to lose some of the battles due to their size against these competitors. But what would you say is that number one factor West Virginia needs to improve on to turn this year around, keep this year moving, keep building on this year, make it a tournament season? And while the schedule's going to be tough moving forward, if you do turn it around and you do get off this losing streak and you do win those games, you could go from you're not sure you're making the tournament to all of a sudden back in a top 6 seed because they're playing quality opponents. They can really impress the rest of the way as well. That's still in front of them.
Yeah, I think number one, it's easy. Make layups. That's it.
Yeah.
I think if they make their layups, they're always shooting under 50% on their layups, which today they shot 7 of 14.
That's probably Huggins' effort thing. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah. I think against Baylor, they shot 7 of 21 layups on layups. They need to make layups. They miss a lot of point blank. Cottrell, Osaboyan, Kerrigan, Polycap, they all miss layups. If they could make some layups, that's 2 points each layup. They would add up pretty quickly.
Yes, you were correct on that math. Yes,
yeah.
Ethan, that's right.
So they could actually get in, and instead of losing by double digits on the road, like in the second half, they could actually make it a game and have a chance. So if they make even a couple layups more than they do now, it sounds so stupid to say that that's the number one thing they have to work on, but it is. Like, layups should be automatic. So if they can make layups, and keep the free throw shooting going. They've been really great the last 5 games. The rebounding doesn't lose them the games anymore. Texas Tech had more possessions this game because they had more rebounds, but they're staying in the rebounding. They're not getting out rebounded by 15 like they did the Pitt.
Sure. Right.
So they're not losing games because of that.
That's true. Yeah. And I think you kind of knew that was going to be a weakness for this team entering the year. I would imagine that if Bob Huggins had this result and they were connecting on layups, they were taking shots, they're hitting their free throws as they did in this game, and they just lost the rebounding battle by a little bit like they have been against good teams recently, that probably goes from 40 minutes to maybe a 10-minute conversation. You can only do so much with your size, but if you're going to effort, you're missing layups, you're missing free throws like they were in the past. And then you're not executing plays. That's a gem of a comment there from Huggins. Then that's a whole different ball of wax here. What would you say as we kind of get close to ending this day without being able to sing Country Roads for the West Virginia Mountaineer fans? Record-wise, you're looking at Oklahoma, Arkansas, Baylor, Texas Tech, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Kansas, TCU, Iowa State, Texas. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 ranked opponents out of those next 10 games. What record do you think this team needs to have here moving forward? You're bringing us the math here on this broadcast. I wasn't a math major either. So if you can give me a number, because the wins are going to start mattering. I think certainly if this team got to 20 wins, everyone was going to sing the praises and they would certainly have been a tournament lock. That's why Joe Lenardi had some early season projections of them being a top 4 seed even. They were even at one point, they were predicted to be a 2-3, especially after the Connecticut win, where people thought they should have been a ranked team because you had so many wins earlier in the year that if you get to a certain number, you're there. But now, I mean, that would be 7 more wins from where they stand right now. And you certainly have time to get them, but there are a lot of tough games remaining here. And certainly I would imagine that even 18 overall wins, you mentioned the conference win total needing probably around 8. You got to have something like that. And none of these are guaranteed W's for West Virginia.
No, I think you hit it right on the dot. 18 or 19 games before the conference tournament, at least win a game in the conference tournament. And they should be fine on Selection Sunday. If they're rolling into Selection Sunday with 17, 18 wins with no conference tournament win,
right,
they're going to be sweating it for
right.
sure. I really think that Arkansas game
13 games left, I believe, for my quick count there.
Yeah, 13 games left. I think that Arkansas game is really big for them because it's another win that they can get and build up on their non-conference schedule and build on their resume to look even better and say, hey, we beat teams out of our conference. just at least something that they can grasp on their resume for Selection Sunday.
Yeah, Arkansas being out of conference, I think, would be big. It's a similar opponent to you who has some quality wins like you do. Arkansas could have the same argument to West Virginia. Maybe I should be ranked in the top 20 at one point or another this year. Similar type of team, maybe a little lesser, but certainly you can't argue that if they lose to them. I think these next two games, Oklahoma and Arkansas, you hate to say this, but they're borderline must-win games because you're going to drop two of the next four after that in all likelihood, even if you play well. It's hard to imagine. You're certainly going to lose some of them. You're certainly not going to win all these games. You're facing three of the next four against top 20 ranked teams. Two of them are top 15 ranked teams. And then you skip a game or so and you got number 7 Kansas. So it's not going to get easy for West Virginia. If you're dropping a game to Arkansas that has less wins than you, if you're dropping a game against Oklahoma, which is similar to you, even in conference, and then you get murderers row with all the ranked teams, and then you drop those games like you normally could, even if you're playing well, yeah, then you're in a committee situation where they're going to start saying, well, this team just, the record's just not good. It just didn't win enough games, even in a tough conference. So it's very important what happens. That next one is actually on my birthday. So we'll see if I can sing Country Roads and they can allow me to sing Country Roads on my birthday there, Wednesday, January 26th. Yeah, January 26th. It is my birthday. It is a game against Oklahoma. We will see what the post game is for that, but it is my birthday, so the age-old adage will likely occur that win or lose, I may still booze on my birthday, and we will see if the Mountaineer fans can say the same thing. Ethan, I appreciate the time. You certainly can find all your work at WV Sports Now, and we will have you back on any of these post-game shows here during this season, wherever it takes us here on Pittsburgh Sports Live as well. Have a good day, man.
Awesome. Thank you. Have a